The sky above the alien world was never quiet. Bright ships cut across the air like glowing knives, leaving silver trails that shimmered in the night. Beneath that restless sky stretched the great market of Veloran, a place where 1,000 worlds came together. Here one could buy anything: rare crystals, strange weapons, even living beings. The market was alive with voices, shouts, and the clanging of machines. John, the only human in sight, moved carefully through the crowd. His boots pressed against the stone ground, polished smooth by millions of alien steps. Towering traders with scaled skin bargained loudly, their words harsh and broken. Shining droids carried boxes of spice that glowed like fire. The air smelled of oil, smoke, and something sweet but sharp like burned fruit. He kept his head down. Humans were rare out here, far from Earth. Most aliens looked at him with suspicion, some with curiosity, and a few with hunger in their eyes. John was no hero, no warrior. He was just a trader, carrying what little he had to survive. But tonight, as he walked through the market, something strange pulled him forward. The noise of the bazaar slowly faded. A large crowd had gathered ahead, pressing tightly around a raised platform. From the way the crowd shifted, whispering in hushed voices, John knew something unusual was happening. Curiosity tugged at him. Against his better judgment, he stepped closer. The platform stood in the center, high above the crowd, lit by harsh white lamps. A tall alien with 4 arms and skin like black stone stood proudly upon it. He was the auctioneer, his voice deep and sharp like metal scraping glass. Behind him, chains clattered as a figure was dragged into view. John's breath caught. It was a girl, or at least she looked like one. Her skin glowed faintly, almost silver in the light, smooth and flawless. Her eyes were wide, the color of liquid gold, burning with a strange fire. Her hair flowed down her shoulders like strands of midnight, shining as though the stars themselves had hidden there. But she was no free woman. Heavy chains wrapped around her arms and ankles, glowing faint blue with restraint technology. Each step she took made the chains rattle. The sound was sharp, cruel, echoing across the silent crowd. The alien auctioneer raised one arm and spoke. "Behold, the last of her kind, the cursed one, dangerous and beautiful. Who dares to own her?" The crowd murmured. Some laughed, others whispered dark tales. John caught broken pieces of their words. She destroyed her world. She brings only death. Her voice kills. But in that moment, John did not hear them. He only saw her eyes, eyes that searched through the crowd, desperate yet unbroken. And then it happened. Her gaze locked on him. For a heartbeat, John felt the world stop. He should have looked away, pretended not to notice, but he couldn't. Something in those golden eyes pulled at him like a chain around his own heart. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft, almost broken, but every word carried weight. The crowd leaned in, silent, as if the air itself wanted to listen. "Master," she cried, her voice trembling, "buy me and free me." The words hit John like a strike of lightning. His chest tightened. The crowd gasped, murmuring louder than before. The auctioneer's stone-like face twisted in anger. He shook the chains violently, making her stumble. "Silence, cursed one," he roared. "You are not to speak unless commanded." But she did not lower her eyes. She kept staring at John, unblinking, her lips trembling with hope and fear. John's hands curled into fists. He had not come here for this. He had no plan, no reason to involve himself. This was dangerous, too dangerous. But her voice echoed in his mind, stronger than the auctioneer's shouts, stronger than the crowd's whispers. "Buy me and free me, why him? He was just a simple trader. Why call out to a human among hundreds of aliens?" The auctioneer's voice cut through the noise again. "She is cursed. Her kind destroyed themselves with their own madness. Her voice brings death. But if you are brave, if you are foolish, you may claim her." "The bidding begins now!" The crowd erupted. Strange alien voices shouted numbers, credits, treasures. Some laughed, excited to own a creature so rare. Others sneered, promising only cruelty. But still, the girl's eyes did not leave John. His heart pounded harder with every breath. He told himself to turn away, to walk back into the shadows, to pretend he had never heard her plea. But he couldn't move. It felt as though the chains on her arms had reached into his soul, binding him to her. Somewhere deep inside, John knew this moment would change everything. He had come here only to trade, but he had stepped into something far greater, And as the bidding rose higher, louder, more savage, her whisper echoed again in his mind, soft, desperate, unshakable. Buy me. And free me. The auction floor trembled with voices. Bids rose like fire, each alien shouting louder than the last. The auctioneer's sharp voice cut through the air, naming numbers, treasures, and weapons in exchange for the chained girl. But in the middle of all the noise, John stood frozen. Her golden eyes still clung to him, never wavering, never breaking. Every other face in the crowd faded into nothing. It was as if she had chosen him, and him alone. John's heart pounded. Why him? Why not the powerful warlord in the front row, his body covered with thick armor? Why not the merchant prince with shining jewels? Why call out to a human, the weakest one here? The bidding rose higher. The crowd grew wild. Yet in that storm of voices, John heard her again. Master, buy me, and free me. The plea was not shouted, not loud. It was soft, broken, but it carried farther than the loudest cry. It was like the air itself wanted him to hear. The auctioneer slammed his staff down, the sound echoing like thunder. Do not be fooled, he roared. This one is dangerous. She is cursed. She is the last of a dead race, and her power is forbidden. No man, no beast, no king can control her. The crowd roared with laughter, some in fear, some in excitement. They whispered to one another, spreading old stories like shadows. She sang and her world burned. Her voice can twist the mind. Her kind defied the empire and were erased. Each word struck John's ears like knives, but still her gaze did not break. Still her whisper lingered. Buy me. Free me. John felt his palms sweat. He shook his head, muttering under his breath. No, this is not my fight. He tried to step back, but his feet would not move. It was as if the market ground itself had locked him in place. The girl lifted her head, chains rattling with the small movement. She spoke again, louder this time, though her voice cracked. You are not like them. You see the chains. You hear me, please. The auctioneer's black stone face twisted with rage. He yanked her chain so hard she fell to her knees. Silence, he bellowed. She is cursed. She is liar. Her tongue is poison. The crowd booed and hissed. Some shouted for her to be gagged. Others begged for her to sing to prove the legend true. John's chest tightened. Every part of him screamed to walk away. But another voice inside him, soft, strange, unfamiliar, whispered, If not you, then who? The auctioneer sneered, pointing at the girl. Yes, fools, she is beautiful. But beauty can kill. Her power lies in her voice. That is why she wears chains forged in silence, chains that suppress what she truly is. Do you understand? The crowd gasped and murmured again. Some stepped back in fear. Others leaned forward, hungry for the risk. John stared at the glowing shackles. He realized then these were not ordinary chains. They pulsed with strange blue light, humming faintly like captured thunder. They were not made to hold her body. They were made to hold her voice. The girl lifted her face once more, hair falling across her glowing eyes. Her lips parted, and for a heartbeat John thought she would sing. The air itself seemed to tremble in anticipation. But instead she whispered again, just for him. They will not free me. Only you can. Only you, John's stomach twisted. He wanted to shout back that she was wrong, that she had chosen the wrong man. He was no savior. He was nothing but a traitor scraping across the stars, and yet her eyes never left him. The auctioneer raised his hands high. The bidding begins. Who dares to claim the cursed song? Voices thundered. Credits, ships, weapons, planets, all shouted like storms. Rich and powerful beings fought for the prize. John clenched his fists. His body screamed to stay silent. His mind told him to step back, to hide, to forget her eyes. But his heart beat louder than all the voices. Each thump of his heart matched her words. Buy me, free me. Buy me, free me. The crowd's voices blurred into noise. He barely heard them. All he felt was the weight of her stare, the pull of her plea. The auctioneer's eyes scanned the crowd, pleased with the chaos. Then his gaze fell on John. The alien's lips twisted into a cruel smile. You, the auctioneer shouted, pointing one sharp finger. The human. She looked at you, did she not? She called to you, did she not? His voice was mocking, filled with venom. What will you give, little man? What price will you pay for her chains? The crowd erupted in laughter, jeering, waiting to see the fool humiliate himself. John's throat tightened. His chest burned. The girl's whisper echoed one last time in his mind. Please. And against all reason, against all fear, against the weight of the galaxy itself, John raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. The market square froze in silence. Every alien eye turned toward John, the lone human whose hand now hovered in the air. The noise of bidding stopped as if the entire crowd had been struck mute by shock. Even the neon lamps above flickered, their glow trembling with the weight of the moment. John felt heat rising in his face. His raised hand shook slightly, but he did not lower it. His choice had already been seen. There was no turning back. The auctioneer's black stone mouth curled into a smile. Ah, the human dares. His deep voice scraped against the air like broken glass. A weak creature. A foolish creature. Do you think you can hold her? Do you think you can master her? The crowd laughed cruelly. Some mocked John with shouts. Others watched in silence, hungry to see what madness would follow. But the girl did not laugh. She did not mock. Her golden eyes widened, soft with something close to relief. Her chains clattered as she leaned forward, her lips trembling. You answered, she whispered. Barely a sound, but John heard it in his chest. The auctioneer slammed his staff against the stone floor, sparks bursting from the impact. Very well, he roared. The human has spoken. The bid is his, but let it be known, his payment is more than credits. A shiver ran through the crowd. Whispers rose, sharp and fearful. John's brow furrowed. More than credits? What did that mean? The auctioneer spread his forearms wide, his stone-like skin glowing faintly in the lamplight. To claim the cursed song, one must give not just wealth, but courage, blood, and fate. Human, do you accept this risk? John swallowed hard. His throat was dry, his chest heavy. This was madness. He had no reason to do this. He had no power to fight whatever trap this was. And yet he could not forget her eyes, her voice, her plea. Slowly his lips moved. His voice was quiet but clear. I accept. The crowd gasped. The auctioneer's smile stretched wider, cruel and dark. Then so it shall be. He pulled a device from his belt, pressing it against the chains that bound the girl. The blue glow flared, then dimmed, leaving only heavy metal links. The restraints were weakened but not broken. She was dragged forward and shoved toward John. Her body stumbled, almost falling until John caught her by the arm. For a moment her silver skin pressed against his hand, warm and trembling. Her golden eyes looked up at him, and for the first time a tear slipped down her cheek. Thank you, she whispered. The auctioneer's voice boomed again. The girl is yours, human. But take care. His smile twisted into something cruel. Chains cannot hold her forever. And when she is free, she may destroy you first. The laughter of the crowd rose again, harsh and mocking like knives cutting through the air. John ignored them. His focus stayed on the girl, on the way her chains rattled with every step, on the way her lips parted as if she had more to say but dared not. As they turned to leave the stage, a low hum began to spread across the square. It was not laughter. It was not cheering. It was something darker. The air smelled of smoke. The ground trembled faintly beneath John's boots. Somewhere in the distance a siren wailed. The girl's grip tightened on his arm. Her whisper brushed against his ear like a blade of ice. We must run. John stiffened. Run? From what? She shook her head, chains rattling softly. Not what. Who? Before he could ask more, the crowd split open as soldiers marched into the square. Their armor glowed red under the lamps, their rifles humming with energy. Each step pounded like thunder. The auctioneer's smile hardened into a sneer. You see, human? This is the price you pay. She does not belong to one man. She belongs to the Empire, and the Empire has come for her. The girl's chains glowed faintly again, reacting to the soldiers' weapons. Her face twisted with fear and fury. They will kill us both, she said, her voice sharp and urgent. Unless you trust me. John's heart hammered in his chest. The soldiers raised their weapons. Red sights locked on him and the girl. His mind screamed to let go, to leave her, to run for himself. But her hand clung to him, warm and desperate, chains biting into her skin. Please, she begged. You chose me. Don't stop now. The air crackled with danger. The soldiers' rifles powered up, humming louder. The crowd stepped back, eager to watch blood spill. John had no weapon, no plan, no chance, and yet his grip on her hand tightened. He made his choice in silence. The girl's golden eyes flashed with fire. She leaned close, her voice fierce. Then hold on. No matter what happens, hold on. The first soldier fired, the world exploded in light. The shot tore through the air like lightning. John ducked instinctively, dragging the girl down with him. The energy blast struck the auction stage, exploding in a shower of sparks and stone. The crowd screamed and scattered, rushing away in panic as more soldiers poured into the square. The girl's chains rattled as she stumbled, but she clung tightly to John's hand. Her voice cut through the chaos, sharp and urgent. "Move, this way!" John didn't think. He just followed. The soldiers fired again. Beams of red energy sliced through the smoke, scorching the ground where they had stood a heartbeat before. John's boots pounded against the stone floor, his lungs burning as he ran. The girl moved quickly despite the heavy chains, her silver skin flashing in the lamplight. They pushed through narrow alleys between towering stalls, past broken crates and glowing jars of alien fruit. Vendors screamed as their goods were blasted apart by stray shots. The air filled with smoke, fire, and the metallic taste of fear. John shouted over the noise. "Where are we going?" She pulled him harder, eyes glowing like molten gold. Away from the Empire, away from their eyes. Behind them, the soldiers spread like a net, their heavy boots echoing in rhythm, their weapons ready. Voices barked orders in harsh alien tongues. They were trained. They were many. And they were closing in. John's chest tightened. He knew this was madness. He had no weapon, no plan, no escape. But still he ran because she ran and because something in her voice told him that stopping meant death. They darted into a tunnel beneath the marketplace. The walls were damp and cracked, lit only by faint strips of dying neon. The air was thick with smoke and dust. The sound of the market above grew faint, replaced by the pounding of boots behind them. The girl's chains clinked with every step, slowing her pace. John cursed under his breath. He could see the skin around her wrists bleeding where the metal bit deep. He grabbed the chains, trying to break them. They burned against his hands with a strange energy, humming like a living thing. He hissed in pain. These aren't normal." She glanced at him, breathless but fierce. "They are silence forged, made to hold my voice." "Then how do we—" "Later," she snapped, pulling him forward again. "If we live." The tunnel split into two paths. She paused, her golden eyes flicking back and forth, listening. Then, without warning, she turned sharply left. John followed, though his legs screamed with exhaustion. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Old stone pillars rose like dead trees, cracked and forgotten. Pools of water shimmered faintly in the dark, reflecting thin beams of light from holes above. "This way," she whispered, lowering her voice. But the silence didn't last. A metallic voice boomed from behind, echoing across the chamber. "Surrender the prisoner. By order of the Empire, she is property of the throne." The girl stiffened, her chains glowing faintly as if responding to the command. John felt her grip falter, but only for a second. Then her jaw tightened. "I am not property," she said through clenched teeth. The soldiers poured into the chamber, their red lights flickering in the mist. Dozens of them, armored and armed, blocking every path. John's stomach dropped. "We're surrounded." The girl turned to him, her golden eyes blazing in the darkness. "Do you trust me?" John stared at her, breath ragged. He wanted to scream no. He wanted to say he didn't even know her. But the memory of her plea, "Buy me and free me," echoed inside his chest. He swallowed hard. "Yes." Her lips curved into a small, fierce smile. "Then hold on." She closed her eyes. For a moment, John thought she had given up. Then slowly, her lips parted and a sound slipped out. Not words, just a single note, soft and trembling. The air changed. The water in the pools rippled. The stone pillars groaned, dust raining from their cracks. The soldiers hesitated, their rifles lowering slightly as if the note had pressed against their minds. The girl's chains glowed brighter, fighting to silence her. Sparks flew where the links dug into her skin, but she kept singing, her voice rising higher, stronger. The soldiers shouted, stumbling. Some fell to their knees, clutching their heads. Others fired blindly, their shots tearing into the pillars instead of their targets. The chamber shook. The pools of water burst upward, waves crashing against the soldiers. The old stone groaned louder, cracking under the force of her song. John held her tightly, shielding her as best he could. The sound rattled through his bones, filling him with something he could not name. Fear, awe, hope all at once. Then, with a final desperate cry, she broke the chains. The silence-forged metal shattered into glowing fragments, scattering across the floor like dying stars. Her voice stopped. The chamber grew still. Dozens of soldiers lay unconscious, their weapons scattered. The chamber walls cracked but held, trembling with the echo of her song. The girl collapsed against John, trembling, her skin glowing faintly. Her wrists bled, but her eyes, her golden burning eyes, looked free for the first time. She whispered against his shoulder, "Now we run." The underground chamber still trembled from the echo of her voice. Broken chains lay scattered across the floor, glowing faintly before fading into cold metal. Soldiers groaned where they had fallen, their weapons silent. John's ears rang. His chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath. The girl leaned heavily against him, her silver skin damp with sweat, her wrists raw and bleeding from the shattered restraints. For a long moment, there was only silence. Finally, John spoke, his voice rough. What was that? What did you just do?" The girl lifted her head slowly. Her golden eyes burned with both pride and sorrow. "That," she whispered, "is why they chained me." Her voice was weak but steady. She pushed herself away from him, standing on her own though her legs trembled. She looked around the ruined chamber at the soldiers lying unconscious and then back at John. "They fear me because of my voice. Because it is not just sound, it is power." John frowned, confusion and unease twisting in his chest. "Power? You mean you can sing and knock people down?" Her lips curved into a bitter smile. "You think it is only that? My voice can break walls, stir storms, even bend the will of minds. It carries more than music. It carries truth." The words sank into John like heavy stones. He remembered the way the soldiers had dropped, the way the stone itself had seemed to shake. He remembered how her eyes never left his when she had whispered, "Buy me and free me." "You're telling me," he said slowly, "your voice can control people?" Her smile faded. "Not control, awaken. My kind were not slaves. We were singers of freedom. Our voices carried across worlds, stirring hearts, reminding people of who they were. The Empire feared us because we made others question their chains." She paused, her golden eyes clouding with grief. "So they silenced us. My people's all gone, burned from the skies. I am the last." John's throat tightened. He didn't know what to say. He was just a trader, a drifter. This was far bigger than him. Whole races destroyed? Powers that could shake empires? Why was he in the middle of this? The girl's gaze softened as if she could read his doubt. "You wonder why I called to you? Why I begged you? Why I chose you, a human stranger?" John swallowed, his mouth dry. "Yes." She stepped closer, her chains broken but still hanging loosely around her ankles. The sound of the links echoed softly in the chamber. "Because," she said, "humans are different. The Empire does not yet know your kind. You are rare, unseen, ignored. You carry no chains in their eyes. That makes you dangerous. And free." John shook his head, almost laughing in disbelief. "Free? I'm just trying to survive. I don't even have a home. I have nothing." Her golden eyes locked onto his. "That is why you are the one. A man with nothing to lose cannot be controlled." The words struck deep, heavier than any weapon. John wanted to argue, but the truth pressed against him. He was empty, drifting from world to world, carrying scraps just to live. And now for the first time someone looked at him as if that emptiness meant something. Before he could answer, the ground above rumbled. Dust rained down from the cracks in the ceiling. The faint hum of ships echoed through the tunnels. "They are coming again," the girl said, her voice tight. "The Empire will not stop. They will chase us to the edge of the stars." John rubbed a hand over his face, trying to think. "Then tell me what they really want. If it's only your voice, why not just kill you?" She looked away, her shoulders trembling. "Because my voice holds more than song. It holds memory. The memory of my people, of what they built, of what they were, and hidden in that memory is a secret, a truth the Empire fears above all else." John stepped closer, his voice low. "What truth?" She hesitated, her lips pressing together. For a moment, John thought she would stay silent. Then she whispered, "That the Empire can fall." Her words filled the chamber like thunder, though she had spoken softly. John's heart skipped a beat. He stared at her, unsure if he had heard right. "They built their power on fear, on silence," she continued, her voice steadier now. "But I carry the song that can break them. That is why they chained me. That is why they call me cursed." John felt the weight of her gaze, fierce and burning. "And now you carry it with me." The silence stretched between them. John's mind screamed at him to walk away, to leave her, to run from this madness. But his heart had already chosen the moment he raised his hand at the auction. The chamber shook again. Voices echoed from the tunnels. The soldiers were regrouping, coming fast. The girl turned toward the shadows, her chains dragging softly. "We must go. If they capture me again, everything is lost." John stared at her for a moment longer, then nodded. "Then we run. But this time, we run together." Her lips curved into a faint, tired smile. She reached for his hand again. "Together, then." And as the sound of the Empire's soldiers grew louder in the tunnels, the human and the last of her kind disappeared into the dark, carrying with them a secret strong enough to shake the stars. John and the alien girl ran through the dark, their footsteps echoing against stone walls. The faint glow of broken lamps lit their path, but the shadows pressed close, heavy with the sound of pursuit. Behind them, the Empire's soldiers shouted, their boots striking like drums of war. John's chest burned, his legs screamed, but he kept going. He could feel the girl's hand in his, small but strong, pulling him forward. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the dark, and the broken chains at her ankles clinked with every step. "Where are we going?" he gasped. "Farther," she said, her voice soft but firm, "away from their net. There is a place ahead, a place of quiet." He almost laughed, bitter and breathless. "Quiet with an army behind us?" But she didn't answer. Her golden eyes burned in the shadows, focused and unshaken. Finally, the tunnel opened into a wide cavern. Stalactites hung like the teeth of some great beast, and water dripped steadily into pools that glowed faintly blue. Strange fungi glimmered along the walls, casting soft light across the chamber. The girl released his hand and staggered forward, falling to her knees beside the water. She cupped her hands, drank deeply, then splashed her face. Her chains rattled as she moved, the broken links glinting like scars. John leaned against a pillar, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his brow. He watched her in silence, his thoughts tangled like wires. Finally, he said, "You could have killed me back there. With that song of yours." She lifted her head slowly. Droplets of water clung to her silver skin like jewels. Her lips parted, but for a moment no words came. Then she said, "If I wanted you dead, you would be ash already." Her voice was calm, almost cold. But her eyes, those burning golden eyes, held something softer. Something fragile. John walked closer, kneeling by her side. "Then why me? Why risk everything on a human you don't even know?" She lowered her gaze, staring at the rippling water. Her reflection wavered there, chained and broken, yet still unbowed. "Because when I looked into the crowd, you were the only one who did not see me as a prize. You saw the chains. You saw the plea. That is enough." John studied her face, the sharp lines softened by exhaustion, the glow of her skin dimmed by pain. She looked strong, but he could see the cracks beneath. He reached out, gently lifting her wrist. The skin around it was raw, burned by the chains. "You're hurt," he muttered. She pulled her wrist back, shaking her head. "Pain is nothing. I have lived with worse." John's jaw tightened. He hated the way she said it, as if suffering was normal, as if it was her fate. "Doesn't mean you should," he said quietly. For a moment, silence filled the cavern. Only the sound of dripping water echoed around them. Then she whispered, almost too soft to hear, "No one has ever said that to me." The words struck him harder than any bullet. He didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. The ground trembled faintly, breaking the silence. Far off in the tunnels, the sound of boots returned. The soldiers were still searching, still hunting. The girl rose to her feet, her chains clinking softly. "They will not stop. They never stop." John stood as well, brushing dust from his clothes. He stared at her, a storm of questions rising inside him. "Then what do we do? Keep running until they catch us?" Her eyes locked on his, fierce and unshaken. "No, we fight," John blinked. "Fight? With what? I don't have weapons, and your voice nearly killed us both back there." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Then you must learn to stand beside me. My voice is not only destruction. It is strength. It is shield. But only if someone holds me steady when I sing." The words sank into him like fire. He felt the weight of her meaning, heavier than her chains had ever been. She wasn't asking him to save her. She was asking him to stand with her. John hesitated, fear clawing at his chest. But then he remembered the way she had looked at him in the auction, the way she had begged, the way she had trusted him when no one else did. Slowly, he nodded. "All right, I'll stand with you." Her golden eyes softened. the fire in them flickering with something warmer. Then we have a chance. The rumble of boots grew louder. Red light flickered at the edges of the tunnel. The soldiers were close. The girl stepped forward, lifting her chin. Her chains rattled softly as she placed one hand on John's shoulder. Her voice lowered, steady and calm. When the time comes, do not let go. Whatever happens, hold on. John felt the weight of her hand, the warmth of her skin, the unspoken promise between them. His fear remained, but beneath it something else began to grow, something like resolve.